Well, the polar vortex in deep South Texas is over, and it has been a horrendous experience for Texas. Power out all over the place, no water or broken pipes and flooding houses, just about any bad thing you can imagine. Worse than a hurricane, actually. So what survived? Well, I survived just fine. No problems here. My power didn't go off. No real water issues. But the garden, that's another story. Let's take a look at it. But first, let's take a look at what I did to prepare. It's Sunday, February 14th, and the cold snap has made its way all down to deep South Texas. In fact, it's been hovering around freezing here since Thursday night. So I've covered up what I can in the garden, what's really subject to the cold weather. We'll take a look at that. So the most sensitive crop I have planted right now are the green beans. And when I covered them on Thursday night, most of them were up, or about 2/3 of them were already up. And I've covered them with tarps. I think they're still okay. I can see some leaves poking through that crack in the tarp there, so I think they're okay. And of course my tomatoes that I planted the last day of January, they're covered up. I haven't looked at them yet. I think they're going to be okay as well. No problem with the celery so far. I don't plan on uncovering or covering that up. And the bok choy, I put a little bit of a cover on those. I can't get them all covered, but we'll see if they make it. And I don't plan on covering the broccoli, though I'm going to come out and harvest a couple heads here later on today. And I also need to be harvesting peas that still seem to be growing just fine in this cold weather we're having. The potatoes are all covered up. The carrots are not. And although I harvested one big cabbage we had here, the rest of the cabbage is not covered up. And the onions, I don't plan on covering either. I'm going to try to cover the cabbage in that bed this afternoon. We're actually going to get, on Monday night, we're going to get down to 22 degrees. And I don't remember it ever being that cold here in deep South Texas. And I've been down here close to 25 years now. So, gonna get cold. And my moringa, I have them all covered up. And I'll be leaving everything covered up until Friday, I think. Thursday night, there's a chance that we'll get back down to freezing again. And so Friday, it looks like it'll be over. We'll come in and take a big reveal video to see what survived and what did not. I'm a little bit worried about the citrus trees and the palm trees as well. So they say I don't recall it ever being this cold down here in deep South Texas. But we'll take a look at the results on Friday. So before this cold snap, my tomato starts and pepper starts I had outside on the porch hardening off. They're pretty much all hardened off now. I just need to get these planted into the ground. But it's going to be another week. They've been inside setting on the kitchen table for the last several days. The beans, I don't think they made it. They look like they got frozen pretty badly. That's not a problem. This was an experiment. I tried planting my beans a couple weeks too early, and this year that didn't work. But I can replant more and still in plenty of time for the gardening season. But what about those tomatoes? Let's take a look. And the tomatoes, they didn't make it either. And that's a real shame, because these tomatoes were just doing great. They were just starting to flower. I was looking forward to a wonderful harvest this year. Oh well, I have more tomatoes ready to plant. They're not quite as nice as these, but we'll get them in the ground next week. And I covered all my moringa trees in buckets. And that usually works for me, but that wasn't enough this year. It was just too cold for too long. So all the leaves and branches that have come up have all frozen and died back. I'm still hoping that the roots produce more branches. We'll keep an eye on those and see how they do. And I have an aloe vera plant underneath this bag. I haven't looked at it yet. Let's see if it's alive. Well, it looks like it's sustained some damage, but hopefully it's still alive, and we'll put out some fresh leaves. Now I covered the bok choy, but I don't think it was necessary, because there's a bunch down there that didn't get covered and they look just fine. So I think I didn't need to cover those, but they're looking good. They're still looking good. I didn't cover the broccoli, and it survived just fine. I did come out and cut off a couple heads before the freeze came, just to make sure I had some harvest. But they look pretty good, and they were covered in icicles. So pretty cold hardy plant. The celery still looks good. I planted some chives and they look okay. We have some parsley here, and it's looking good. The carrots look a little beat down and bent over, but they all look alive. I think we're okay there. And I pulled a few carrots yesterday. They're good. They're not quite ready, but they're coming along fine. Let's take a look at the potatoes. So there's some damage. The leaves that were closest to the sheet that I covered them with look like they're frozen, but the rest of the plant looks okay. So I think we can still expect some sort of tomato or potato harvest this year. The peas look a little iffy. The pods that were on the plant obviously froze. I'm going to pick all those off and feed them to the chickens. The plants themselves suffered some, but they might pull through. So we'll keep an eye on those and see how they do. The dill seems to have survived. They did get covered with ice and bent over, got some hard bends in the stem. They'll probably not stand up again, but I see evidence of new growth, so I think that will be okay. The onions, that I didn't cover the onions, and they seem like they survived. I'm sure it set them back a little bit. And the cabbages, they look like they survived okay. I did come out and harvest a couple of cabbages before the freeze just to make sure that I would get some sort of harvest, but they look good. The eggplant looks pretty sick. It may be done. And my one pepper that had been surviving since last year, it looks like it bit the dust as well. And the chickens survived just fine. So as you would expect, most of the cold weather plants did okay. Most of the warm weather plants suffered miserably. So I tried to beat the season a little bit this year. It didn't work out. That's okay. Plenty of time to replant. So that's what we'll be doing next week. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.